Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times, a Prancing Pony podcast production. I'm the Man of the West, and it's time to keep Week 87 going as we continue Túrin Turambar Tuesdays for the final 2 weeks of Series 11. And yes, in case I haven't clarified that yet, it is Túrin Turambar, not, as I have been pronouncing it for most of this time, Túrin Turambar. And it just has to do with the double consonant sound. That's why the stress is on the penult and not the antepenult. So, Túrin Turambar. Now, last week, a pregnant Níniel chased after Túrin, who was chasing after Glaurung. This week, Glaurung meets his end, but not before utterly ruining Níniel Nianor's life. Then Turambar summoned all his will and courage and climbed the cliff alone and came beneath the dragon. Then he drew Glaurung, and with all the might of his arm and of his hate, he thrust it into the soft belly of the worm, even up to the hilts. But when Glaurung felt his death pang, he screamed, and in his dreadful throe he heaved up his bulk and hurled himself across the chasm, and there lay lashing and coiling in his agony. And he set all in a blaze about him, and beat all to ruin, until at last his fires died, and he lay still. Now Glaurung had been wrested from Turambar's hand in the throw of Glaurung, and it clave to the belly of the dragon. Turambar therefore crossed the water once more, desiring to recover his sword and to look upon his foe. And he found him stretched at his length, and rolled upon one side, and the hilts of Glaurung stood in his belly. Then Turambar seized the hilts, and set his foot upon the belly, and cried in mockery of the dragon and his words at Nargothrond, "Hail, worm of Morgoth! Well met again! Die now, and the darkness have thee! Thus is Túrin, son of Húrin, avenged!" Then he wrenched out the sword, but a spout of black blood followed it, and fell on his hand, and the venom burned it. And thereupon Glaurung opened his eyes, and looked upon Turambar with such malice that it smote him as a blow. And by that stroke, and the anguish of the venom, he fell into a dark swoon, and lay as one dead, and his sword was beneath him. The screams of Glaurung rang in the woods, and came to the people that waited at Nen Girith. And when those that looked forth heard them, and saw afar the ruin and burning that the dragon made, they deemed that he had triumphed, and was destroying those that assailed him. And Níniel sat and shuddered beside the falling water, and at the voice of Glaurung her darkness crept upon her again, so that she could not stir from that place of her own will. Even so Brandir found her, for he came to Nen Girith at last, limping wearily. And when he heard that the dragon had crossed the river and had beaten down his foes, his heart yearned towards Níniel in pity. Yet he thought also, Turambar is dead, but Níniel lives. Now it may be that she will come with me, and I will lead her away, and so we shall escape from the dragon together. After a while, therefore, he stood by Níniel, and he said, "Come, it is time to go. If you will, I will lead you." And he took her hand, and she arose silently and followed him. And in the darkness none saw them go. But as they went down the path to the crossings, the moon rose and cast a grey light on the land. And Níniel said, "Is this the way?" And Brandir answered that he knew no way save to flee as they might from Glaurung and escape into the wild. But Níniel said, "The black sword was my beloved and my husband. To seek him only do I go. What else could you think?" And she sped on before him. Thus she came towards the crossings of Teglin, and beheld Howthan Elleth in the white moonlight, and great dread came on her. Then with a cry she turned away, casting off her cloak, and fled southward along the river, and her white raiment shone in the moon. Thus Brandir saw her from the hillside, and turned to cross her path, but he was still behind her when she came to the ruin of Glaurung, nigh the brink of Cabed Aras. There she saw the dragon lying, but she heeded him not. for a man lay beside him, and she ran to Turambar and called his name in vain. Then, finding that his hand was burned, she washed it with tears and bound it about with a strip of her raiment, and she kissed him and cried on him again to awake. Thereat Glaurung stirred for the last time ere he died, and he spoke with his last breath, saying,
Hail, Níniel, daughter of Túrin. We meet again ere the end. I give thee joy that thou hast found thy brother at last. And now thou shalt know him, a stabber in the dark, treacherous to foes, faithless to friends, and a curse unto his kin, Túrin, son of Túrin. But the worst of all his deeds thou shalt feel in thyself.
Then Glaurung died, and the veil of his malice was taken from her, and she remembered all the days of her life. Looking down upon Túrin, she cried, Farewell, O twice beloved! Ah, Túrin Turambar, Turambar tannen, master of doom, by doom mastered, oh, happy to be dead! Then Brandir, who had heard all, standing stricken upon the edge of ruin, hastened towards her. But she ran from him, distraught with horror and anguish, and coming to the brink of Kabed and Aras, she cast herself over and was lost in the wild water. Feels like there's not a lot that I can say on top of this deeply tragic text, but there are a few moments that I want to at least point out and have you think about. The first is a general piece of advice. If you ever need to kill a dragon and manage to do so, assuming you lose your best sword in the process, leave it. Better not to risk the dragon still being alive. Better not to risk the poisonous blood, etc., etc. Seriously, Túrin, it's a good trade. One dark sword with the heart of its evil master in exchange for the death of the mightiest dragon in Middle-earth. Take it and be done. Next, more seriously, put yourselves in Níniel's place for a moment. Not the awful moment at the end, that's bad enough. But earlier, when she is pursuing Túrin with the people of Brethil, and they hear Glaurung's screams. At the voice of Glaurung, her darkness crept upon her again, so that she could not stir from that place of her own will. This is some deep, deep trauma caused by what Glaurung had done earlier, triggered by his voice, and it's clear that he still has massive power over her as a result. This spell of forgetfulness is still upon her. And third, Brandir is creepy, comes to mind. We literally get a glimpse of his thoughts, his out loud thinking, and he's already moving in on Níniel and her weakness. Now, she's having none of it. Where do you think you're taking me? The Black Sword was my beloved and my husband, she says, and ouch, that double beloved and my husband, that hurts, knowing what's coming. She comes upon Glaurung, ignores him because Túrin is lying there injured and unconscious. She needs to help him. She tends to him. And it's then that the moment of peak evil arrives in the form of Glaurung's final words. And there's truly nothing I can say about those more than just recapping. And she remembered all the days of her life. For now, this wraps up this week's Túrin Turambar Tuesday. Be sure to join me again next week when Túrin has a chat with his sword before he too says goodbye. In the meantime, please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can join the Content Council, get an ad-free feed and a bonus episode every week, and then join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Word Nerd Wednesday. Podcast listeners, please be sure to subscribe to the show in your podcast app. For those on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to this channel for all of the PPP productions, including my new streaming project, The PPP Plays. And be sure you're following @PrancingPonyPod on all your social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.